Westplex 107.1. An animal. Shelley, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? You ever heard this goofy question? Hi, if you were an animal, what animal would you be?
I'd probably be a puppy.
Excuse me, that made me cough. A puppy? Why would you? What kind of a puppy?
I don't know.
There's
Probably either a golden retriever or a Great Pyr.
So you wouldn't be an adult dog, you'd be a puppy.
I'd be a puppy.
You'd be a puppy. Okay, so if there's
Everybody loves puppies. Puppies have their own smell to them. You know, you sit there and they've got puppy breath.
Puppy breath. Ugh. Who wants puppy breath? So if there's, it's like
you're not a dog man, so you wouldn't understand puppy breath.
Once again, I am not an animal hater like I've been made out to be.
I don't think that you're an animal hater. I never said that. You're not an animal hater. You have Q1.
Well, but see, right. A feral cat that lives in our parking lot.
Yeah, but you got her taken care of, so she doesn't get in that position again.
Well, yes, but it's not like, I feed her or anything like that.
You feed her, though.
Well, every once in a while, but I do have the heated water bowl that I put out there when it gets really cold, but that's a whole nother story.
See, that's you. Like your little puppy heart shining through.
But once again, there's people that will there's people who are passionate and there's people who are zealots. You know what I'm saying? And the passionate people will say, I love my dog, I love my cat, everyone should have one. Do you have one? And I will say no. And they'll say, oh, well, you don't know what you're missing. The zealots will go, I love my dog, I love my cat, and if you don't have a dog or cat, there's something wrong with you. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but animals like you, don't they?
No, they ate me. They bite me. I'm like the
do not.
I'm like the postman. Yeah, like how many times have I gone to somebody's place and they go, "Oh, my dog never bites anybody." Cromp on my leg.
Well, it's better than peeing on it.
Well, I guess.
At least they don't draw blood. No, I'd rather have a little nip on my ankle than a pee ankle.
I can tell you, we had, I shouldn't even tell this story. Long time ago, when I was first married and lived in our very first house, my wife came home one day and found an injured little puppy on our front lawn, and it had been hit by a car, apparently right out in front of our house. So she brought it in, and we nursed it back to health. Well, anyway, that dog got to be like super protective. And one day we were doing some work, and we were having some concrete poured at the house. And the concrete guy, comes to the front door and just opens the front door and walks in, and the dog bit him, where. You know what I'm saying?
In the jewels?
Yes, the dog jumped up and bit him in the groin. And if it wasn't for the fact that he had on a pair of, it was a little bit on the cold side, and he had a pair of blue jeans on, plus he had a pair of bib overalls on, which were sort of, if you ever had some of those bib overalls, have pretty heavy duty fabric. And if it wasn't for the fact that he had two pairs of pants on, probably would have done some damage, but, hurt him, but not, sort of like it would have been like, if somebody would have sort of kneed you gently in the private parts, it would have been sort of the same effect. You know what I mean? It would go, oh my God, that hurt, and you'd recover in 10 minutes. But that was our dog, and and that was the last dog we ever had. Matter of fact, we got to the point where when we moved to our other house, the dog just couldn't deal with it for whatever reason. Couldn't deal with the new house, so my mom and dad took him, and they kept him until she died. So, but that was the last pet I had, and that's been a long time ago. And it's funny because my kids would always when they're growing up, they're always like, Dad, we want a dog. And I go, hey, you know what? Dogs chew things up. They run around, and you leave things laying. If the house is perfectly clean, we can have a dog. And they'd go, okay. And the house would never be clean, so we never had a dog. And every time they would come back, they'd go we want a dog. And I'd go, hey, is the house perfectly clean? Well, no, I've got some of my clothes laying on the floor. Okay, fine. Guess what? We can't have the dog.
And that was you doing that?
It's both me and my wife.
That's funny.
Yeah, but
You know, the things that we can get away with as
well,
parents.
no.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not that we got away with it. It's to the point where it's like, look, it's like anything. I mean, like, that's something that hopefully that was a life lesson we taught them. Essentially said, you want this, you have to do this. You know what I mean? You want like my daughter's an attorney. You want to be an attorney, you have to go to college and you have to go to law school. You can't just show up one day and take the bar and go like, hey, I'm an attorney. In other words, there are things you have to go through, and that's life. Now there's some people that go like, well, that shouldn't be life. Well, that is life. That's what it is. If you want to be a nurse, you just can't show up at a hospital and say, hey, I want to be a nurse. You got to go to school. You got to take the exam, the board, and then you get hired. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. You're exactly correct.
One of those things,
See, I gave in a lot.
You what now?
I gave in a lot.
Oh, with your daughter?
Uh-huh. But then on the other hand, I was extremely stressed.
So that's why she turned out the way she is, right?
Despite my shortcomings, she turned out to be a pretty amazing young woman. Yes.
We have to take a break. We will be back. It's BS in the Morning. Check out our website at bsinthemorning.show. And
he's B and S, just so you know.
No, she is B. I am S. And unlike that fake morning show in Las Vegas where it used to be Brittany and Sparks, and the guy's name is not really Sparks, so that's a fake S, and Brittany quit, and she's no longer there. So there's still BS in the Morning, although there is no BS there. But we are truly BS in the Morning right here.
We are.
On Westplex 107.1, 616. Westplex 107.1, Genie in a Bottle. One of my favorite good old you-know-what naughty songs, and we play them from the noughties. That's the 2000s, the 00s, whatever you want to call it. And think about it. Next year, we'll be back to a decade where it'll be easy to describe.
What will we call it, the 20s?
Yeah, the 20s. It's
okay.
part of the 20s. Like you hear, like if you talk about like the old time in the 1900s, they talk about the Roaring 20s. After World War I and Prohibition and bootlegging and all the other crazy stuff. So yeah, it won't, because right now, think about it. How many people refer to where we're at right now as the teens? When's the last time you heard anybody say that? I do. You do?
Yeah.
I don't really hear people. I mean, all the time you heard people talk about the 70s and the 80s. They had that 70s show, and you had the 80s and the 90s, and then the zeros, which nobody refers to, but we do, called the naughties, and then the teens. But the problem there is you got 10, 11, and 12, which aren't teens, because the decade actually starts with the year like 2000, so the decade will start with 2020. So when you start with the 2010, what decade is that? Well, it's not. If you say the teens, that gives you 13 through 19, but it doesn't give you 10, 11, and 12, right?
So what do you call it?
I don't know. I call it, we call it the naughties and now, because the naughties are.
Now is all encompassing.
The now is like anything from 2000 till now. So I guess next year we'll have to say naughties now and the 20s or something. I don't know. Who knows? Goofy stuff,
Yeah. It is.
Because, think about it. I mean, how many times do you hear people refer about, like, well, back in the 80s, back in the 90s.
I refer to the 80s quite a bit because I'm still living there.
Well, but the 60s, you had stuff like that, all the crazy things that happened in the 60s, stuff like that,
What crazy things are going to happen in the 20s?
Well, there's already crazy things happening right now. We got a president who's, in the process of being impeached. I'm telling you, it's interesting. I shouldn't admit this. I do admit it because I listen to all sorts of different radio stations. That's one of the most common questions I still get. Do you get that, Shelley? Does anybody say to you, what station do you listen to when you're not on the air? Do you ever get that?
No, they don't.
Really? I still get questioned all the time.
They know I am Q through and through, and Westplex 107.1 is right at the edge of my fingertips.
Hold on, let me get my boots on. I still get the question about what do you only listen to your own station? No, I listen to all sorts of different stations. I listen to NPR, and and just like with me, like in the morning, like when I look at news, I look at CNN and I look at Fox News, and I think to myself, well, somewhere in between is the truth. And it's gotten to the point where, God, as a journalism, I almost hate to admit this, having a journalism degree, journalism's dead. you go, especially on CNN, if you go to their website, the very first story is always an opinion. Well, not always, but it's like most likely an opinion piece. And I'm going like, okay.
It's armchair quarterbacking.
Well, I'm going to CNN for the news. I'm not going to CNN for what guy is interpreting the news. I mean, and at least with some publications like the Wall Street Journal, you usually get a pretty good unbiased report on what's going on. But I don't know. Who knows? But it's the stuff with the impeachment, the thing yesterday on NPR, they're talking about how this has not gotten the attention of the average person like the Clinton impeachments did, and if you go way, way, way back when, like the Nixon impeachment, because nothing really salacious has come out. Now, I'll say yet, because remember we talked about yesterday, the three witnesses, the Republican guy under cross-examination said, have you ever met the president? And these people that all testified, they said, no. Have you ever talked to him? No. Have you ever been in the same room with him? No. But yet they're testifying against him. That would be
Isn't that a song?
Well, but see, that would be like someone saying, well, I told you the classic story of one of my clients who called me into his office one day, and there was a lady there that was just ripping me apart, and she didn't know who I was. And I walked into his office, and he put his hand up like Shelley does. In other words, don't talk, just be quiet. And I walked in, and he said to this lady who was in the room, and he said, now, what did you say about that Brad Hildebrand guy? And she just went off. Oh, he's blah, 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 for like 5 minutes. And then good old Randy stops and he says, and he looks at the lady. He says, see that guy right there? And she goes, yeah. And he says, do you know who that is? She goes, no, I have no idea. And he says, that's Brad Hildebrand. She turned red because here she was.
Did she stomp out? I mean, how do you?
It was
mess
funny.
Something up like that.
It was funny. She was tearing me apart. I didn't even know who she was. I've never met this woman before. I didn't even know her name until Randy told me what her name was. I'm going like, wow, my reputation precedes me.
Your reputation has always preceded you, number one. And number two, there are three, my mentor always told me there are three impressions you can make. Good, bad, and none, and the worst is none.
Well, the perfect example of that is Donald Trump. Either love him or you hate him. There's usually no middle ground for him, I mean, first off...
I'm kind of like that, too. You either love me or hate me.
Yeah, whatever you say. Hey, we have to take a break because we have to make a good impression on you with our clients. How's that for a segue?
Good.
Good. Thanks for the positive reinforcement. It's 6:29. Westplex 107.1. That's what I just said. Boy, she just jumps right in there and talks on top of me. Adele. Remember there was a time when you couldn't do anything without hearing about Adele, and now nobody talks about Adele anymore. What happened to that? What's the deal?
She probably got out of the limelight so she could raise her kids.
Well, she lost weight. Did you know that? That's part of it.
Oh, she did?
Oh, yeah.
So now she's out of the limelight, or what?
I don't quite get this whole thing with the fat shaming and stuff like that. I mean, there's some people, like, for example, there's some people that look good with some meat on their bones. And like, perfect example, the weather dude on the Today Show. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Al Roker.
Yes. He lost weight. He looks terrible. And you know who else looks terrible?
He doesn't look like the same man. No, he does not. I agree with
Sharpton. That. Al Sharpton looks like, okay, what happened to Al Sharpton? Remember? Al Sharpton used to be on the heavy side, and now Al looks like a skeleton, I mean,
I think that's karma.
No. Well, I hear what you're saying there. But it's just like women, okay? There's the image that you have to be, 5'3", weigh 110 pounds, and be 36, 24, 36 for you to be appreciated as a beautiful woman. Isn't that sort of like what still the norm is? You have to be sort of small and thin and have, sort of like not necessarily the Barbie look because that's extreme, but, have that curvaceous figure, right?
Yes, that's true.
And yet, if you go back in history, the famous painter Rubens, who painted all these women who were like
big fat cherubs.
No,
little chubby cherubs, more voluptuous.
You said it, I didn't, and the name is called Rubenesque. That's usually the term given someone who is a woman who has a few pounds on her. And quite honestly, that's most women. Think about it. And to the point where I don't find anything wrong with that. But yet there's some guys that one of the guys used to work with me on the air who doesn't work with me on the air because of this, because one morning he decided to make fun of Oprah Winfrey and start talking about she used to be slim and trim and she looked good and then she packs on the pounds. And keep in mind, the guy who said that was 5'6", weighed about 240.
Most people are like that. That is true. Men want... Men have a problem with curves.
I don't quite get that. I've never understood that.
But you know how you compensate that when you're a larger woman?
You wear a bikini all the time?
No, you dress really nice and people treat you different.
Well, but that's the same.
You get yourself up, you get your face on, you get your clothes on.
Shelley.
Make sure that they're dressed, that they're nice. And that you're dressed professionally, and people will treat you different
Shelley,
than if you've got your Walmart clothes on.
Shelley, it's the same thing as a guy. I can dress in my work clothes, like I'd use on the weekends, like when I'm cutting grass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people don't, will sort of not necessarily give you much pass. And or I can put on a suit and I can go places and I can walk into rooms. I can go to office buildings and walk into places where nobody questions me.
That's true.
To the point where if I got my suit and tie on, I can walk into, a government building and I can pretty much walk anywhere I want. But if I'm in Joe work clothes, or even casual, blue jeans and, let's say a pullover shirt, or a button down shirt, sir, can I help you? Where are you going? What are you doing? That kind of stuff. So, it's the uniform.
It's true.
It's the uniform.
And do you know that women that dress real nice and even if they're bigger, and do you know that women actually dress for other women? You men think that we're dressing for you. We're actually dressing for other women.
Well, do you know men dress for their dogs?
No, they don't. Stop it. You're such a goofball.
Are you going to call BS on me?
Yes.
You don't believe that men dress for their dogs? Hey, Rover, what do you think? You like these pants? Ruff, 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 ruff. Hey, I knew you'd like them.
Come over here. Come here, boy. Come over here and put fur all over me. Because I've got a busy day.
Excuse me, I laughed so hard I coughed. Hey, we got to take a break. 644 Westplex 107.1, Ava Max, Sweet But Psycho. That sort of describes Shelley, don't you think?
Oh, snake charmer, you.
Yeah, you know what? There's certain things I can do that will always make you laugh. You don't think I can do that?
There are certain things that will always make me laugh, and then there are certain things that you zone in on that will send me over the edge.
Well, there's something I can do that it's something new, but anytime I play it, you'll always laugh.
So play it.
I snorted. I'm sorry.
I laugh because it's funny. And the reason it's funny is because one time we were there.
Hold on a minute.
They were busy and he was cranking out that food. And it was to the point where it was like a screaming child. Please get me out of here.
Okay, hold on. I got to play it again because I didn't have it on the air check. So here, one more time. Hold on.
Yes, number 290 orders now. Ready, please? Guest number 290.
I wonder if we should tell that young man that we're doing this. Tell him, hey, dude, you're on the radio. I'll be back to pick you up later, good looking.
We're not making fun of the guy. I've always have a phrase that I essentially say, I love people that have a passion for what they do. And I would much rather walk into a place of business and have someone come up to me and say, hey, hi, how you doing? I'm glad you're here. Then you walk in and go yeah, can I help you? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And then you walk in and you go, yeah, they hate their job. Yeah, it's almost, it's evident that they hate their job.
Or like
the 12-year-old.
You have the robot worker to the point where it's like, is that a real person or is that a robot? Hey, can you tell me where the whatchamablobber is? Yes, it's over in aisle number 42 on the right, down near the floor. Thanks so much. You're most welcome. You know what I mean?
Well, you have to think, Walmart is like the biggest retailer in the world. And if there was anybody that they were going to test robots on, artificial intelligence that look like real people, it would be there.
Have you ever seen those robots in Schnucks yet? I saw one a couple weeks back.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's the inventory robots. They go up and down the aisles and they take inventory.
Just another way to get not have to pay someone.
Well, no.
That's like self-checkout.
No. Well, you don't like the self-checkout?
Do I do self-checkout?
No, here's what I don't like about self-checkout.
That takes away somebody's job, Brad.
No. I go to self-checkout because it's quick, but the problem is it's not quick anymore. It's to the point where you get these people that they go up there and they go like, oh.
They have entire baskets of food.
Oh, no. That's not usually the problem.
Yes,
they'll go
they
like
do.
they'll put whatever it is on the scanner and it doesn't go off and they'll go like, sir, can you help me? It doesn't. And to the person will come over and go like, you have to turn it around so the barcode is read by the scanner. Oh, okay. Or the one I was in one the other day where the lady, puts all her stuff into, she's scanning her stuff, but then instead of putting it into the little, area where it weighs it to make sure that, you're actually scanning the right thing and, that you're paying for it and stuff like that, she's putting it in her basket. And the lady comes over to her and says, ma'am, you have to put it, when you're scanning it, you have to put it over here because it weighs it. And the lady looks at it, she goes, well, I know how much it weighs. I'm going like, okay,
Aww.
whatever.
You just have to go, okay, honey, can I help you?
It's like there should be, see now if they should say they should have certification for self-checkout. So you should be able to have to go to a class and you should have.
You have to be this tall to ride this ride.
No, you have to take a class for the self-checkouts. In other words, like, okay, so here's how the self-checkout works. And, you do this and you do this. And then you get a little certification, just like my son has his unexploded ordnance card, which I'm still jealous of. I told you that story, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. That was a good story. You should tell everybody else.
I want to have my unexploded ordnance, my UXO card. I'll tell that some other time. But I see I'm jealous of my oldest son.
It's hilarious, by the way.
He has his UXO card. He shows it to me one day, and I go, "What is that?" It's from the federal government. He says, "Oh, it's my unexploded ordnance card." So, okay, so you can defuse bombs? No, I just can identify them. Okay, thanks. Where did you get that? At the Eglin Army Base in Florida? Okay, yep. So you are a certified UXO card-carrying member. Love it. See, but I'm jealous of stuff like that. I want to have that. Just like I have two driver's licenses. Actually, I have a driver's license and a non-driver's license. I bet you don't have that, do you?
No, because I don't have a CCW.
But I'm special. I have two different licenses.
You are special, Brad.
Right. Yeah. I accidentally I will show my non-driver's license. If like somebody says, "Can I see your ID?" And one guy said to me, he says, "How did you get here?" And I go, "I drove." And he says, "Yeah, but you don't have a driver's license." I go, "Oh, showed you the wrong one." So anyway, hey,
that's funny.
No, he did. He said that to me because I showed him my non-driver's license, and it was like at a shopping center. I think it was down in the valley, and the guy I can't remember why I had to show an ID or something like that. So it's like like how do you get?
Were they carding you?
No, how do you get? Think about it. Like Chesterfield Valley. How do you get to Chesterfield Valley if you don't drive? I don't think there's buses that go out there. I mean, it's like not near anything. Nobody lives there. Nobody lives around the valley, right? So if you go to the valley, you pretty much have to be in a car.
Speaking of carding, do you know that Walgreens, if you want to buy cigarettes, they make everybody show their ID?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Now, do I look like I'm 20 years old?
Well, it's interesting. I went to, there aren't too many stores anymore that sell CDs. And I went to a music store a couple weeks ago. And, and they asked me to see my card. And I showed him my music card, and the guy said, "This is a card A," and I go, "Yeah," and he says, "I need you to see your Cardi B."
I don't understand.
Never mind. 6:50.
Westplex 107.1.
Yes, one day I found Shelley, and my wife. My life has never been the same. It's sort of like the day that I accidentally was carrying my gun and it went off and shot me in the foot. My life's never been the same. Same kind of experience.
I am the bane of your existence, Brad Hildebrand.
Yeah, you're the bullet.
I'm your karma. Welcome.
You're the bullet hole. You're the bullet hole in my foot. You know, I told you about.
In your Donald Trump toe?
No. Yeah, no, I missed my Donald Trump toe. I told you the story about my one friend who married the CIA agent, but she didn't realize she was married to a CIA agent. Did I ever tell you the story?
Yes, you did tell me that.
How she got shot in the leg in Nigeria by a guard at the airport. Is that weird or what?
It's movie making stuff right there.
She told me, and
that's Mr. and Mrs. Smith right there.
Right, and she told me that, and I go, yeah, right. And she says, no, she pulls up her pants leg, and you can see where the bullet went in the back of her leg. I go like, okay, you got shot in the leg. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. It's BS in the Morning. She's B, I'm S. You can check out our website, bsinthemorning.show. How about this deal? And I know you're probably, and look, I'm not making fun of you when I say this, but you don't follow the NFL and stuff like that. Do you know about this Myles Garrett
I am
story?
The most boring radio host ever.
No. Okay, do you know about Myles Garrett? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Last Thursday night's game, Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Myles Garrett is a defensive player. I think he's a defensive lineman. And Mason Rudolph is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. In one of the plays, Myles Garrett was rushing the quarterback, Mason Rudolph, and tackled him, ripped his helmet off, and then whacked him in the head with his helmet. So this is Myles Garrett, the defensive lineman who tackled Mason Rudolph, the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, tackled him, ripped his helmet off, and whacked him in the head with his helmet.
That was personal.
Well, yeah, he's got an indefinite suspension. And matter of fact, essentially what they said was it came out in a news conference yesterday with what's this guy's name? Roger Goodell, who is the head of the NFL. He essentially said that he has an indefinite suspension, an open-ended suspension, which means that they can essentially say, you know what, we may never end your suspension. You may never play another game in the NFL. And they essentially said that he's already out for the rest of the season. And Goodell's quote was, there's no place for that in the game, which totally, I think most people would agree. So it's like, okay, that's like going a little bit too far. Anyway, they said that the only reason they will let him back in is if he apologized. Now, he already has apologized and said he's sorry in the whole bit, but they're going to have a meeting with him probably at the end of the season or after the end of the season, and essentially the NFL is going to decide whether he'll be able to play next year or not. But, you know, when you think about it...
Did he say why he did it? Did he give?
No,
he just needs to take his comeuppance and move on.
Yeah, but think about it for a minute. The thing that sort of gets me about this is that, okay, this is the NFL, okay? And
they're supposed to beat each other up. It's like hockey.
Yes, it's to the point where, like, if you try...
I mean, that's why people go.
Right.
To see somebody get tackled. And,
well, no,
and
yeah, if you take...
You know, the adrenaline rush and
well, like
everything.
your point you make, which is a good point. It's like the like the NHL. If you go to the NHL game, if you go to the Blues game and there's never a fight, you're going like, well, there was no fights. You know, I mean, and to the point where...
I mean, that's why people go. They want to bleed blue. They want to see teeth knocked out. They want to...
Right.
You know, but I will say that there's a big variance between the sizes of the football players. So I can see why that would probably cause a little problem.
What do you mean? Size of the football players amongst themselves or compared to other athletes?
Yes.
No, most of the football players are pretty big guys. You don't have too many small guys in football. I mean, there are a few of them who are like, you know, running backs and things like that who are essentially, you know, can, you know, crouch down and, you know, squirt places they normally couldn't get. But most of your guys are big dudes. You know, I mean,
I know.
I'm 6'2" and weigh about 215. I would be like a small NFL player. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, most of the guys.
So what was the size comparison? Not that it makes a difference, but what was the size comparison between the two?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, though. I mean, to the point where it's one of those things. He's go like, okay, you don't rip the guy's helmet off and then whack him in the head with his own helmet. It's like, no, that doesn't happen.
Isn't that just bad form?
Well, it's good. You could kill somebody like that. Think about it for a minute. I mean,
I know.
if with their helmet on, you whack them in the head with their helmet. You still get concussions and things like that. But when you rip his helmet off and then hit him in the head with the helmet, I mean, come on now. That's like, I mean, you could very easily kill somebody like that.
Absolutely. That was completely personal, or he was being a man-child.
But see,
and having a tantrum.
I keep saying this, and I say this. I'm not a big football fan, and I say this to some of my football fans because they're, the whole deal is the concussion protocol, and they're being very careful with that, as they should. But I still say I got the solution, and everybody else looks at me like, okay, what's Mr. Brainiac? What's your solution? I go pad the outside of the helmets too. If you put an inch of foam on the outside of the helmets, if you have that helmet-to-helmet contact, because that's where a lot of the concussions are, when you got two guys that whack each other, helmet to helmet, if you got like an inch of foam on the outside of the helmet, it's like, like in the old days, if you remember like the old cars had like a steel dashboard, and if you whacked your head against the dashboard, guess what? The dashboard wins, you're going to lose. But then they decided, we'll pad the dashboards so that if somebody's head or their arm or their legs impact the dashboard, you're still going to have some injury, but you're not going to have nearly as much injury as you had from like whacking your head against a steel dashboard. Well, same thing. Instead of having a hard outside surface to the football helmets, put like a 1 inch of foam on there. So then you got the foam on the inside, you got foam on the outside. And there are all sorts of guys that break their hands, by especially broken fingers.
So should we keep these men in a bubble? They get paid multi-million dollars to do their job. Don't you think
a touch football.
I don't know. They're going to be the boy in the bubble. They're going to be John Travolta, the boy in the bubble.
See, the problem is every year.
Oh my God, we could sit there and put those little plastic things around them, that you could sit there and roll down the hill, but they could sit there and they could run and they'd have this little balloon around them. Why don't we do that?
Well, but see, the problem is that every year the players get stronger and the game gets faster. It's to the point where if you took like a player from like the 50s or the 60s,
like Tarkenton.
Well, yeah, and somehow you could transport them to the current. I mean, in the same shape they were in the 50s to 60s, and you could transport them to modern day football, they'd get killed. Because
they were also, that's because, for one thing, they weren't as big as they are now.
That's my point.
I went to the Veterans Museum last night in St. Charles.
Right.
It's amazing how small these young men were compared to nowadays.
Well, here, look at it this way too. Look at a picture, like if you look at a picture of like everybody at a ball game, like back in the 50s or stuff like that.
Yes.
First off, the men all have suits on. They're at the ball game with a suit and tie.
Yes,
they got a hat on.
Yes, they are.
And they're all skinny guys. There's no big fat dudes like there are today, and the women are all sort of on the skinny side as well too. What happened?
That's because that's what was going on back then.
You know what happened?
Fast food.
McDonald's. That's what happened.
Yep. Fast food.
and back then, no Little Debbie's.
They didn't have Little Debbie's back then?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I've been researching Little Debbie's actually for
that's
you.
Spooky. Yeah. We got to take a break. It's 7:15. Westplex. That's what I just said. Westplex 107.1. Good morning to you. It is BS in the morning, and I am S, and she is B, but I don't think she's here. I think she left.
I didn't leave. I'm here.
Oh, I thought you left.
That was wishful thinking, Brad. You're stuck with me, dude.
Wishful thinking. Listen to you. I
have your penance.
I thought you. I thought you stepped out of the studio for a minute. Okay.
I did.
I have to tell you a somewhat stupid story, which is I learned something last night. Okay. I do, as you know, maybe the listeners don't know, but I do some freelance voice work, and I'm on a couple different services where I get stuff from all over the world. And it's really interesting because some of the stuff that I end up doing is like I'm on phone systems where sometimes if you call certain places, you'll hear my voice. Hi, thanks for calling, that kind of stuff.
And you're also the ultimate phone system dude, weren't you?
Well, I was on for a while. In the old days, I was the Southwestern Bell Mobile Systems guy, so that if when you dialed a wrong number, you got me. But that's a whole nother story. Okay, so I get a script yesterday afternoon from a guy who I've done some work before, and he's doing a narration for a kids video. Okay, it's going to be an animated kids video, and I am supposed to be Mr. Bones. Okay, and Mr. Bones is a dog. Okay, so he wants me to be Mr. Bones, and he sends me the script. As a matter of fact, I'll read you one of the lines. I'll just read it normally. The Mr. Bones is, I'm going, sniff, sniff. Hi, I'm Mr. Bones. You smell like peanut butter. How do you feel today? Do you feel happy? Okay, so I get the script, and he says, read it like Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Yeah.
So I go online, and I go on YouTube, and I bring up a video for Clifford the Big Red Dog. Okay, do you know which one I'm talking about? I
do. Who doesn't know Clifford? We go way back.
Okay, but here's the interesting thing. The videos I bring up, Clifford doesn't talk. He just barks. And he never talks. And I'm going like, oh, how in the hell am I supposed to read this script if I'm supposed to sound like Clifford the Big Red Dog and all he does is bark? Okay, I found out something very interesting. And as I did a little research on this, I go to Wikipedia. And it turns out that in the original Clifford the Big Red Dog, the original series, which only was on for 3 years, Clifford talks. And then when the series went away, the animated series went away, and then it came back, but Clifford doesn't talk. Do you know why he stopped talking?
For more imagination?
No. The original voice of Clifford the Big Red Dog was John Ritter, who was on, remember Three's Company?
Oh, yeah.
And he died. So they stopped production of the original Clifford the Big Red Dog cartoon series because the voice, John Ritter, who was Clifford the Big Red Dog, was not alive anymore. And when they brought back the series again, Clifford doesn't talk anymore. So I'm going like, okay, so now I have to find a video, one of the original videos from 2000, 2001 of Clifford the Big Red Dog with John Ritter. And I'm thinking he's doing like a goofy voice. He's John Ritter. That was the original voice. It was just him, just talking. It wasn't like him, oh, hi, I'm Clifford the Big Red Dog. It wasn't anything like that. He was just John Ritter going like, hey, I'm Clifford the Big Red Dog.
He was talking like a normal person.
Yeah.
Which is the way dogs talk.
He was John Ritter. So originally I did this video, this audio track for this guy with a little bit of goofy sounding to it. And he emails me back, no, man, just be yourself. And I go, okay, I'll be myself. So I just read it. And the only one thing you wanted, because it's a kid's video, it says read it sort of slow. And so I read sort of slow. And, all it was like, here I go. It's like, hi, I'm Mr. Bones. Yeah, you smell like peanut butter. And he loved it. So I'm the character in some goofy animated story or something like that. But
that's actually kind of priceless.
Well, but the goofy thing about it was I had no idea because I don't, my kids were, by the 2000s, my youngest son would only been 6 or something like that, 6 or 7. And I don't think they were into Clifford. My one son was a big Thomas the Tank Engine guy, and my oldest son was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, and my daughter, she was into, I don't know what world she was into. She was into, I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, So Clifford the Big Red Dog, originally he talked when John Ritter was alive, and then when John Ritter died, Clifford the Big Red Dog doesn't talk anymore. So how's that? And by the way, I played that Cardi B song because I gave my stupid joke earlier about, I went to the library.
And I didn't understand it.
And you didn't know who Cardi B was. That was Cardi B. You know
Thank
who,
you for
you know
knowing
who
that.
Cardi
And you know
B
why I knew
is.
that?
Why?
Because I YouTubed it.
Oh, you watched Cardi B?
I did.
Yeah, and you know how Cardi B sounds?
Yes.
Did you ever hear her talk?
No.
Here's Cardi B. You ready?
Calm down. Calm down.
That's Cardi B.
Okay, Brad. Oh, look, it's 7:28.
Westplex 107.1, undrunk. You ever been undrunk? I think I'm undrunk right now.
Sometimes I wish I was undrunk.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like I'm Mr. Krabby. I talk about driving and stuff like that and crazy people driving. But I had something that happened to me yesterday, and this has happened to me a couple times, and it really bugs me.
Because you drive 25.
No. Here, let me tell you the story.
You need to listen to Sammy Hagar.
No. I don't drive 55. Okay. You know what's really funny? I heard somebody on another radio station, a young woman who's probably in her mid-20s, and I won't embarrass her, and they were talking about Sammy Hagar, and Hagar, whatever you want to call him, Hagar. And they were talking about the song, I Can't Drive 55, and she didn't understand what that song was about.
Oh, because she was young and she wasn't around. She was too young to remember speed limit being 55.
Right. When they changed the national speed limit to 55 miles an hour. Right. And nationally, all the interstates dropped down to 55. And she was like, so do you mean, and once again, I'm not making fun of her. It was sort of funny because it was a thing. It's like, if you were born like within the last 20 years, you'd go like, I don't get it. Well, why? I can. If you get out on I-70 west of like Forestel, the speed limit's 70. When you get out on 44 west of Six Flags, the speed limit's 70. What do you mean 55? 55 mile an hour speed limit? That kind of a thing. But anyway,
did she know who Sammy Hagar was?
Oh yeah. That was interesting. And by the way, I got to talk about that too. Let's talk about the next. Well, maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. Remind me that either we'll talk about the next break or we'll talk about Motley Crue tomorrow, which is a pretty interesting story.
That was actually pretty interesting what you sent me.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about that tomorrow. Okay, so here's my deal. Okay, there's a law that they passed, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago that you're supposed to pull over a traffic lane if you see a police officer or an emergency vehicle on the shoulder. Tow truck,
yes.
Highway department guy, police officer, fire department guys. You're supposed to pull over a lane. Okay, so yeah. I'm on 44 and I'm heading west on 44 yesterday. And I come up over the hill. I'm out there, where it's sort of hilly out there west of Six Flags. And I see up ahead as I top a hill, I see about a mile ahead of me. I can see about a mile ahead. There's a police officer who has a car pulled over in the right shoulder. Okay, so as I get closer, I'm in the right lane, so I move into the center lane because there's 3 lanes there. So just as I am ready to go around the police officer, I'm in the center lane. A guy passes me on the right, doing like 80 miles an hour. And I'm going like, dude, you know what I'm saying? It's like, first off, you're not supposed to pass on the right. Second off, and apparently he got mad at me because I pulled into his lane where he was doing like 85 miles an hour, and and he was in the center lane, and and he came up on behind me real quick. So at the last minute, he pulls out around me, and goes onto the right lane to pass me on the right, and goes right by the cop who's standing out giving a person a ticket. And I'm going like, why can't? Here's what they need. Here's what the police officers need. They need a paintball gun that they carry on their hip. And,
yeah, I'm sure that would work.
And when somebody does something stupid like that, he's already occupied because he's given out that ticket. And they need to be color coded. So in other words, the police would be like, they would shoot out like a bright blue paintball, and they would fire a couple rounds at the back of that car and splat, have it hit in the back of the car. So when another police officer sees him, there's a guy, and then he would pull him over. Sir, you've been marked as a bad driver. I'm giving you a bad driving ticket. But officer, you didn't see me do anything wrong. But yet you've got blue paintball on the back of your car. That means that you have been tagged by one of our officers when you did something illegal. What do you think of that law, huh? Think that would work?
Have you ever seen the movie RoboCop?
So you're saying they should have like ray guns or something like that, or like a laser that would blow the guy's car up as he did something illegal like that?
No, not necessarily, but if somebody shot a paintball at you, somebody would file charges because it could have impact traffic when somebody's coming up around you because you're driving 25
I'm not
in a 50,
driving 25.
And then so they sit there and they nail that guy for speeding with a paint gun, but yet 2 people back see the police officer pointing a gun at this car, you don't think that's going to cause a lot of traffic incidents?
I think if people would slow down. I mean, if you're on the highway and it would be like, okay, the paintball guns would be orange. So in other words, when you saw the police officer with the paintball gun, it would be, oh, he's got a paintball gun on. He's getting ready to mark that car. No, you don't think?
I didn't know paintball guns were orange.
No, I said they would make them orange. They would make them orange so you wouldn't mistake them for a real gun. Just like on the kids' toys. If you look at kids' toys and the guns, they have like an orange thing on the end of the barrel.
So you think that this is going to be on a national level?
Oh, yeah. You don't think that?
Okay, yeah. Well, they sat there and did the credit card processing, and none of them are the same nationwide. So if they can't get that right,
well,
what makes you think they're going to get the paintball right?
How did we get the credit card processing from police, shooting paintball at bad motorists? Would make that correlation for me. What did I miss there? Credit card processing?
They sat there, they had a product,
right?
They knew that they were going to roll it out nationally, but yet they gave no conformity or no regulations on how they were going to use to process that credit card payment. So it's either, you press credit on the screen, or you press the enter button, or you press the yellow button, or you press the red button. Everybody is different. There is no conformity.
Okay, here's how Shelley relates to things. If I said something about
yeah, tell me how I relate to things.
If I said something about, boy, I really love my Little Debbie's cakes, Shelley would say, I went to school with the girl and she was Big Debbie. We called her Big Debbie because she was big. She wasn't little. She was Big Debbie. I go, Shelley, I was talking about...
How did you know that?
I was talking about Little Debbie's cakes. I know, but Little Debbie's little, and I went to school with the Big Debbie.
How did you know that?
But how in the world do you correlate police officers with paintball guns shooting blue paintballs at people who do nasty things on the highway to credit card processing? Make that jump for me.
If you're going to make a national thing... just never mind. In my mind, it makes sense. And I bet in other people's mind. This is a Venus-Mars thing.
That's a scary thought.
On. Oh, look, it's 7:42.
No, one more minute. I get what you're saying about that on sometimes you go to use your credit card and sometimes to use credit you have to hit enter or whatever like that. And I know some terminals are different. If you do one thing,
terminals are different.
But why does that have anything to do with my goofy idea of the police shooting paintballs at cars?
Because if it's going to be a national campaign, they need to get it right and standard in all of the states if it's going to be a national campaign. Okay. They can't have one state be orange and the next state be purple.
But you could care less about the fact that they shoot paintballs. You just want to make sure that the paintball guns are all the same color.
Correct. I want conformity.
Years ago, I had a psychiatrist tell me.
You met someone that was as silly as I was?
No, I had a psychiatrist tell me, honest to God, it's a weird story. I wasn't actually seeing him as a patient, but he actually wrote an article, and I liked the article, and I called him one day, and he called me back. And
that doesn't surprise me.
We discussed the article, and he said, you're the kind of person that constantly needs to be challenged. So that's why I have Shelley. 744. Westplex 107.1, Shape of You. What a huge hit that was for him. Do you like that song?
It really was. And have you seen the video?
Yeah, I have. It's that's the one. Isn't that the one where he's like the fighter?
I thought it was the one where he was the dancer.
Oh, I don't remember. It wasn't. It didn't make an impression on me as much as some of my other favorite videos.
Clearly.
Like Point at You. That's one of my favorite videos.
What is it?
Point at You.
What's the song?
It's a country song. That's the name of their song. Point at You.
Oh, okay. It's a country song.
Oh yeah. A lot of good country videos.
Yeah, I am. I like the Get Up song.
The Get Up song?
Yeah.
Can you do that dance?
I'm learning it. I'm not lying. I'm learning it with my flash mob.
Do you know, I was looking at the stuff the other day on the charts again because, make sure we're playing the right music and look at what's playing nationally and locally and stuff like that. And do you know that Old Town Old Town Road is still in the top 40. It's like
Is it really?
It's like 30.
How come we're not playing it?
Well, we do. It's not in the hot rotation anymore like it was. It's still there. And the country people still are not happy with Lil Nas X, which is sort of interesting.
Wow.
Nor are they happy with Blanco Brown.
Put your golden guitar and your diamond-studded cowboy boots up in your truck and get over it.
I can remember. It's funny. I can remember. Recently, Tim McGraw was complaining about that too. That there was a heritage of. Excuse me, cough came out of nowhere. There was a heritage that country music should stay with. But remember, Tim McGraw did a duet with Nelly. Remember that? I'm thinking to myself,
yes, I do.
Hold on a minute now.
Songs.
Tim McGraw, who's sort of saying, "Hey, we have to respect country music," but yet he does a duet with Nelly. Because he was making. See, in country music world, there's still a lot of the artists who've been around for a while are still making fun of Florida Georgia Line. They think that they started what's called the bro country revolution, where what's
and I'm not a country person.
Are you talking into your vapor again?
Ished.
Anyway, that's an inside joke. Anyway, I can't remember where I was going with that. He threw me off with that.
That's my job.
One morning,
is to throw you off every day,
One morning,
Brad.
I'm talking to Shelley on the radio here, and it sounds like she's like in the bathroom down the hall. And I said to her, just as a joke, I said, "Are you talking into your microphone or your vape?" And she was talking into, what is your thing called? It's not a Juul, it's a what? It's a Nord?
It's a Nord.
What's a Nord?
It's a vape.
But I've never heard of a Nord before. Is that like something like out of Nordstrom's or something like that? It's the Nord vapor?
No, it's just called a Nord.
N-O-R-D.
N-O-R-D.
Yeah, and well, you know what?
It's a vaping apparatus.
I do remember that. I heard that ad the other day. Hi, if you're a nerd, you should use the new Nord.
No, you didn't.
I heard that ad, yeah. Hi, if you're a nerd, use the Nord.
That sounds like something that would be out of one of the Schwarzenegger movies, Back from the Future.
Really? It doesn't have anything to do with credit card processing?
Oh, it's 7:58.
I like the way she says that. Brr,
I
bash.
know. Isn't she the cutest thing ever?
Who's the guy that goes brr,
Matthew
bash?
Weingartner.
Yeah, Matthew. Brr, bash.
Hometown Cleaners.
Brr, bash. It sounds like it's cold outside. It's brr, bash. Hey, that's going to do it for us, Brad and Shelley. And before I leave this morning, I want to make one thing sort of resonate in your mind today. As you go through your day today, you ready for this, Shelley? I want you to do as well, too, okay?
Okay.
Do you know what the Kevin Bacon game is?
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Right, 6 degrees of separation. The idea being you're supposed to try to stump somebody. You're saying, the James Bond movie Goldfinger, and you're supposed to somehow tie Kevin Bacon in 6 moves or less to, that particular thing. Here's what I'm going to challenge everybody to do today. Think about as you go through your day, and in 6 moves or less, try to correlate whatever you do to credit card processing, okay?
You are such a funny man. Who knew? A mic monkey and a comedian.
You don't like that idea?
I do like that idea, and I could probably give you 6 moves or less on what my correlation was between, I don't even know what we were talking about. What were we talking about?
Well, Shelley was talking about, and she doesn't really talk about this too much anymore, but she's got a couple new kids. She has her daughter, but then she had a couple of kids recently, and she was driving around with them, and, she was telling them, what was that again, Shelley? What'd you say?
They can't hear me because they're listening to Kids Bop.
They can't hear because she's listening to Kids Bop.
You're so funny. You make me LOL, Brad Hildebrand.
And then for lunch, Shelley will go to Freddy's just to hear him say,
Yes, number 290 orders now. Ready, please? Guess number 290.
And then Shelley will say, you know what? I wish we had somebody on the station that would give like birthdays and things like that. So we get Henry DiCarlo.
Oh, what a beautiful morning.
That was meant to be.
Henry DiCarlo saying,
Christy and Joe Horton, 9th anniversary, and Hugh Janus turning 10.
Just had to go there, didn't you? Man-child. And now, the most favorite man in St. Charles steps up to the microphone and says,
Calm down. Calm down.
really? I practiced that all day.
Go ahead.
And now you're going to sit there and...
Go ahead.
I can't do it. I can't do it more than once.
No,
It's 8:03, everybody. Have a great day. Peace.
Go ahead and say it one more time. I promise I'll be good. Go ahead.
Hi,
ahead.
Chris Promise. Easily made, easily broken.
Okay, go ahead.
So now, everybody, let's tune in as the favorite man in St. Charles steps up to the microphone and says,
Yes, number 290 orders now.
You.
Please guess number 290.
Okay, I'm done. Have a great day, everybody. Peace. And you, Brad, I'll deal with you later.
And here's the most famous man in St. Charles County.
Hey people, your mom called. She says to call Extreme Electrical for your residential, commercial, or industrial needs. Give us a call, 636-925-2988, or on the web at extremeelectricalstl.com.
K296 HA KRAP Washington.
Westplex 107.1. It's today's best music for the Westplex. Westplex 107.1.